So, a new chapter in our lives. You know, we never get sick, and we are in the midst, both of us, of COVID. This has been quite an experience. And am interested in reflecting on what Dr. Zach Bush says about viruses, because his perspective, which is really resonates with my own, is that a virus is a way to clear things out of the body that are no longer of value. So with COVID here, I'm looking for what's the opportunity? What is there to learn? What is there to see that's new and fresh?
What'd you see?
I haven't yet. But as time goes on, we'll explore more and share with you whatever we do see.
Yeah, we haven't really talked much about it, but ever since the pandemic began years ago, we were listening to Zach Bush because, and other MDs, trying to understand what was really happening with this pandemic and what all the public health officials were saying had to be done in order to really contain it so that we wouldn't all die. And Zach was talking about the virome being the world of viruses, virology, the study of viruses. And they're very different from from every other living organism, but that's the thing. They're not living organisms. And yet science and medicine often puts it into the realm of living organisms because they affect living organisms. And so they're often considered part of the microbiome, even though they're not life forms. And what Zach was pointing out that really gave me a complete 180-degree different view on viruses was that viruses are like little sections of genetic information that are packaged in a little protein envelope. And these viruses are produced by living organisms when they're under stress. And the reason for that is because when an organism is under stress, nature is always looking for how to adapt to whatever that stressor is. And it starts producing these little segments of genetic information so that they all go out to these living organisms and then they take them in. And if it's useful for them to adapt to the stress they're under, then they take it in. And it might be experienced as, COVID symptoms, so to speak, because it's body's having to adjust and adapt to new genetic information. But if you really zoom out into the big picture and the role viruses have played in evolution, science has identified 5 major extinction events on the planet over the last 200 million years, whatever. And the most recent, apparently an asteroid hit and created so much dust in the atmosphere that it blocked out the sun and everything died. There was no energy to keep life alive. And so 98, 99% of all life form on the planet died. And in the stress of that, all these living organisms put off these tiny little fragments of genetic information that we call viruses, and for eons, it all just sat there, kind of in a cosmic stew, waiting for the sun to come back. And when it did, what came out of that wasn't a reiteration of dinosaurs and ferns and all of that. What came out of that was a recombination of all this genetic information that came from the dinosaurs and the ferns and everything that was here before the extinction of it, and what was produced? Wildflowers that never existed before, and trees, and mammals, and just things that had never existed before. And all of that because of the viruses. So viruses aren't the enemy. We demonize viruses because it gives me a cough, a sore throat, and aches and pains and this kind of thing. And we think that we need to try to control the viruses to stay healthy, when in fact, it may be that the viruses are there to actually create a stronger species. So we've had a real different attitude toward viruses and COVID and everything since we've been kind of looking at it from a very different picture. To us, it's a lot like going from believing the earth is flat to seeing that the earth is round. Because when we believe the earth is flat, it's simply not true. But we believe it, and so we make all these decisions around how am I going to stay safe on this planet, so you never sail too far away from shore. But there's no reason not to sail away from shore. It's just a misunderstanding. And so as we look at this new understanding around viruses, it really is a wonderful, fresh, new way of looking at life and moving out of the paradigm of us against nature, us against bacteria, viruses, disease, cancer, the war on cancer. It moves us away from this idea of being at war with life to understanding the intelligence behind all of that. And with that, we've so relaxed into our experience without being afraid that it's going to kill me.
Yeah, we've never had any fear about COVID, and we never contracted it until now. And I'm just reminded that everything that happens in life is an opportunity to take me into greater growth and a deeper understanding and more openness. So I'm excited to see where this leads.
Yeah, it's so wonderful that this paradigm of viruses actually being part of the natural evolution of life, that the viruses and COVID and everything else isn't so much a sign that nature's out to get us. We've got to go to war here against these viruses. It's really an expression of how life is always living us. And if there is a pandemic of viruses, it may not be that the viruses are out to get us so much as they're the symptom that we have put our culture, our planet, our food supply, all of that under so much stress that nature is looking for new ways to provide new possibility to deal with the stresses that we've created. So maybe the problem isn't coronavirus so much as the stress that has been producing these different variants of the coronavirus, which is nature's natural response to stress. How are we stressing our planet? How are we stressing our soils? How are we stressing our food supplies? What if we took some of those stressors off? And it may be a much simpler solution than continuing to create the stress and then fight the result. Oh, did you have anything else?
Well, I wanted to say the recipe. So the recipe is a creamy corn chowder creamed with cashews, fresh corn off the cob from the farm, red pepper, and other interesting ingredients. It's really good. So give it a try if you wish. And if you have any comments, connect with us below.
Thanks for joining.